Hey everyone, welcome back and happy Friday afternoon. And for those of you who are new here, I very much appreciate that you decided to check out the video. Feel free to kick your feet up and check out the other content. This afternoon I wanted to round out the topic of the new upcoming Survivors mode recently announced last week at Gamescom, and how the new mode in Division 3 could potentially be Ubisoft's own Crossroads. Now, before we jump in, I want to thank everyone who's been subscribing and supporting the channel. And a special shout out to our channel members. On the screen is my thumbs up wall, where your names appear for becoming a member of the channel. Your support truly keeps this community growing, and it gives me the boost I need to keep making content for you, and I can't thank you enough. Okay, let's do it. There's a question bouncing around every Division 2 discussion right now. Do we actually want Survivors mode? Or should Ubisoft stop drip-feeding the Division 2 and finally give us the Division 3? And that's just not idle chatter. It cuts to the heart of where this franchise is and where it's going. We've been playing this game for years now. 7 years if you're counting from the Division 2's launch. Ubisoft dropped its 7-year roadmap at Gamescom 2025, and let's be honest, the reactions are a bit split. On paper, the roadmap looks like content. It looks like activity. But if you dig deeper, you can see question marks. Are these updates genuine attempts to reinvigorate the game, or just placeholders until the Division 3 finally arrives? And that's what we're unpacking today. Remember, the roadmap I saw years ago when working at Ubisoft died right after Mutiny for various and assorted reasons. And ever since then, the roadmap changes more often than the local weather. So let's do a quick recap on what Ubisoft announced at Gamescom 2025. First up, the Pact, launching September 9th. Enemy factions are teaming up against you. True Sons, Outcasts, and Hyenas, groups we've been fighting for years, are now combining forces. That's an interesting twist, and it adds some unpredictability to the combat. I think it's an evolutionary mechanic from the final Theo mission earlier this year. Instead of just fighting one faction's behavior pattern, you'll be getting hybrids, outcasts throwing their fire while True Sons continue suppressing you with LMGs. Alongside that, there's a new permanent open world activity called Retaliation. It's essentially Control Points 2.0. Tactical takedowns, stronger resistance, and new loot paths with more exotics. Then in December we get Mutiny. This one focuses on modifiers that raise the challenge ceiling. Think gameplay mutators that change the rhythm of missions. The bigger innovation is the companion NPC system, though. This is apparently letting you recruit allies for solo runs, something the community has asked for since launch. And I found that somewhat interesting considering I myself never heard that before. I've talked to a lot of players throughout the franchise and not one has suggested they wanted this mechanic. And since its announcement, I've revisited this question again in my clan and the response was mixed. Most agree it sounds like a similar mechanic from Ghost Recon Wildlands. And then the big one, Survivors mode, scheduled for sometime in 2026. This is Ubisoft's revamped take on the original Division's survival mode. The blizzard, the hunger, the desperate scramble for resources, and the tense extraction. Only this time, it's set in snow-covered DC, with community-driven tweaks meant to smooth out the flow. They're promising refinements based on years of feedback, better pacing, streamlined resource management, and landmarks redone to feel fresh under snow. On paper, that's a solid roadmap. The problem is what it represents. The community reaction to Survivors mode has been sharp and divided. On Reddit and X, you see two dominant camps. The excited camp, people who loved survival in Division 1 and have been begging for its return. For them, Survivors is exactly what they wanted. The frustration camp, players who feel like this is just stalling. They see Survivors mode not as a gift, but as a distraction. My own channel didn't seem all that interested in it when I covered it earlier this week. And in case it was just a simply missed watch, I included a link to it in the description below. Wink, wink, nod, nod. Anyway, here are a couple of the real community takes. Someone posted, I low-key wish they'd put those resources into the Division 3 instead. Another said, what the fuck? We need the Division 3 for this generation. Those comments blew up, with likes and shares flooding in. And it's not hard to see why. For every player who hyped to jump back into the snow and relive that tension, there's another who feels like Ubisoft is stringing them along, giving us another couple of carrots to chase in Division 2 instead of committing to the next big step. And that's the Crossroads moment that I mentioned before. Survivors might buy time, but does it solve the bigger problem? Let's zoom out. Survivors mode, the Pact, Mutiny, they're content drops, add-ons, band-aids. But here's the thing. A lot of players suspect that these aren't just updates, they're testbeds, experiments. Ubisoft is prototyping ideas inside Division 2 that might actually feed into the Division 3. Smarter companions? Well, let's test it in Mutiny. Refined survival loop? Let's test it in Survivors. Bigger faction mixes and open world activities? Let's test it in the Pact and Retaliation. The timing also lines up with the franchise's 10th anniversary in March of 2026. That's when a lot of fans expect a big Division 3 announcement. So is Survivors mode really for Division 2 players, or is it Ubisoft's way of keeping us occupied while they stress test Division 3 mechanics behind the curtain? Now, let's talk about Division 3. Massive Entertainment has been working on it since at least 2023. Julian Garrity, after leading the Star Wars Outlaws, is now the executive producer. The evidence is all there. Job listings in 2024 and 2025 for narrative directors, animation experts, AI specialists, the Snowdrop engine upgrades hinting at more immersive worlds, industry insiders like Tom Henderson saying don't expect Division 3 before 2027, maybe 2028. Why? Because Ubisoft's been reeling. The big C word, management scandals, Heartland was cancelled, X-Defiant crashed and burned, layoffs gutted multiple teams. Hell, even the mobile game has been delayed multiple times. Tencent's involvement with their flagship titles like Assassin's Creed. All of that redirected resources away from the mainline projects like Division 2 and slowed down just the idea of the Division 3, let alone launching the project to produce it for years. Speculation runs wild about Division 3. Chicago as a new hub city, multi-city gameplay for bigger scale, RPG depth with customizable hubs, PvP designed around skill over gear, true crossplay across all platforms. The ambition is there, but ambition takes time. And here's where we hit the core issue: trust. Ubisoft has a reputation problem now. Launches full of bugs, balancing nightmares, content droughts, layoffs, and canceled projects. The Division 3 can't afford to inherit that baggage. If Ubisoft rushes it too soon, it'll launch broken, like the first Division. And if it launches broken, the franchise risks losing even its most loyal player base, the 40 million players who've stuck with it through thick and thin. And though I understand a slower pace to get things right, my counterpoint is you've had over 5 years. The first Division launched in 2016. Division 2 launched in 2019. The Division 3 is speculated to launch late 2027, early 2028. Think about that for a second. Now, perhaps the Division 3 needs time, but not at the expense of endless delays or a lack of enough runway to polish, test, and rebuild trust. The model is already out there. Warframe's development of Soulframe, transparent updates, public alphas, constant feedback loops. That's how you win players back. If Ubisoft embraced that, regular panels, open testing, honest communication, then a larger wait for the Division 3 wouldn't feel like abandonment. It would feel like collaboration. So where does that leave Survivors mode? To me, it's a bridge. It's something to keep Division 2 alive through 2026, while giving the devs space to quietly build Division 3. Does it solve the long-term problem? Well, no. Does it stop the bleeding for a while? A little. It gives players a fresh reason to log back in. It scratches the nostalgia itch. And if it's executed well, it might even remind players why they loved the Division in the first place. But it's not the future. The real innovation, the real evolution, has to come from the Division 3. And Ubisoft knows it. So here's my take. Survivors mode is fine. I'll play it. It'll be fun. It'll give us stories to tell and moments to clip. But it's not what will define this franchise. The Division 3 is the future. That's where the boundaries need to be pushed. New settings, new mechanics, deeper RPG elements, balanced PvP, cannot stress that enough, and crossplay. And most importantly, a launch that isn't broken. It may take some time, but it should also come from a hefty dose of honesty. And that takes Ubisoft rebuilding our trust one step at a time. So if Survivors buys that space to do that, I'm okay with it. For now. But they need to start opening the curtain. Panels, betas, community engagement. If Warframe could do it, Ubisoft can do it too. Because if they don't, if they drag this out without communication, the community will bleed out long before Division 3 arrives. I really hope this video was helpful in breaking down Ubisoft's crossroads between Survivors mode and Division 3. I know not everyone's going to agree with my take, and that's okay. But I'd love to hear what you think in the comments below. Do you want to see Survivors mode keep Division 2 alive? Or should Ubisoft just cut the cord and move on to the Division 3? Drop your thoughts and let me know in the chat below. If you're new to the channel and you like the content that teaches instead of spoon feeds, and if you'd like the kind of critical breakdowns we do here, hit the subscribe button. We're on PC, PlayStation, and Xbox, so no matter where you play, you're going to see us around. And if you'd like to support the channel, you can like, share, or become a member of the channel, or check out the merch store. Every little bit helps the content keep going. Don't forget, new Twitch drops are coming in September, and thank you so much for watching. And until the next one, this is Hannibal, signing off.